Hello and welcome back. I'm 3 bots in a trench coat and this is another Hardened Scales video. Today I am testing a green-white Lurrus list with Mishra's Bauble instead of Esper Sentinel. The thinking here, and this is a little bit experimental, is that Esper Sentinel is a great card, as a lot of people have realized, but it's never going to be as great in this deck as the core, which is Arcbound Ravager, Hardened Scales, Urza's Saga, and the Ozolith. These cards are so strong, and the synergy between them is so strong, that everything that you play in your flex slots doesn't really compare. And hopefully we can draw into them more consistently using these Mishra's Baubles. Mishra's Bauble also powers up Spire of Industry a little bit. We have a lot of 0 drops, so we should have no trouble tapping this for whatever colors of mana we need. And one commenter asked me to talk about the sideboard some more in the last video. So sideboard is pretty much unchanged. I think I had Shadowspear in the board last time. But Esper Sentinel made way for the Shadowspear in the main, and then Animation Module replaced Shadowspear in the board. So basically you've got Prismatic Ending and Pad the Exile for creature decks, Nature's Claim for anything that Nature's Claim gets rid of, but you also bring in claims against burn because you can blow up your own stuff to gain 4 life. Pithing Needle for anything that Pithing Needle is good against, control decks that have Planeswalkers, Hammer Time, you name Colossus Hammer. You even bring it in against Jund and Grixis Shadow, naming Engineered Explosives, just because EE is such a blowout against us. We have a lot of 0 and 1 drops. In fact, our deck is entirely 0 and 1 drops. EE on 0 or 1 will hit half of our deck except for the Arcbound Ravagers. And then we play Lurrus because we can. The funny thing about this deck is even the green-red versions don't play any 3 drops in the main, so Lurrus is almost completely free. Torpor Orb is mainly for Solitude decks, although not necessarily blue-white control, because Torpor Orb only hits Solitude in that deck, but you bring it in against... it stops ETBs, okay? You bring it in against Reanimator, bring it in against Dredge because it stops their Narcomoebas and their the Ox stops the Ox thing. Relic and Grafdigger's Cage. Relic is a much better graveyard hate piece than Grafdigger's Cage is. We bring in Relic against pretty much all graveyard decks, and it's great because unlike Soul Guide Lantern, Relic actually pressures their graveyard over time as long as it's in play while still having the threat of activation if you ever absolutely need to exile their graveyard, and you can do all that and still recoup a card. So even though there are a lot of great graveyard hate options in the format, Relic just does it all and draws you a card. It's never a choice, or it's never an either or. If you're playing 3 pieces of graveyard hate, I think 1 Grafdigger's Cage is just nice to have because you can tutor for it off of Urza's Saga. There are a lot of other sideboard cards that are useful here, but we can't play Chalice of the Void on 0 because we have too many 0 drops in this build of the deck. Chalice of the Void on 0 is obviously good against the Cascade decks that cascade into a 0 drop. And there's also like Void Mirror, which we can't play because we have Mishra's Bauble. So, and then Animation Module is just for grindy matchups like Jund and blue-white control and Grixis Shadow. You can often overwhelm them just by making a lot of servos, and then you're still threatening to sacrifice all those servos to an Arcbound Ravager and win the game that way. You can even do some cool tricks with it, like its activated ability can put Saga counters on Urza's Saga. It can put poison counters on your opponent. So yeah, animation module, not a very powerful card, but a very versatile one. That's the deck. Let's get into a league. One more thing I wanted to say about the design of this deck is just that, like I said earlier, the power level of the core of this deck is so much higher than the rest of the filler that honestly you could probably just play nothing in the Mishra's Bauble Esper Sentinel slot and still win a lot of games. So I'm hoping that having a cantrip is gonna let us draw into that powerful, is gonna let us have more of our more powerful draws. So we are on the play here. Gonna reveal Lurrus. Opponent is on no companion, and this is a great hand. It's got a Hardened Scales and an Urza Saga, which is all you need. Opponent down to 6, that's good for us. We're gonna start off with our Hardened Scales here, and then next turn probably play our Urza Saga. Generally, if you have an Arcbound Ravager in your hand, by the time Urza Saga comes off on turn 4, you can kill your opponent. And it looks like our opponent is on Belcher, so we're gonna have to kill them by turn 4. That might not even be fast enough here. Belcher is one of our worst matchups just because there are so few ways to interact with them. Combo in general gives the Hardened Scales deck trouble because our deck is very powerful, but it's not as fast as an all-in combo deck, and we don't have any room for, or we don't have that much room for interaction due to the amount of synergy between the cards in our deck. If you take away too many of the pieces, right? If you took away the cards that put +1/+1 counters on things, Hardened Scales would stop working. If you took away the Hardened Scales, then Arcbound Worker would just be a bad card. So we really do have very few flex slots. Opponent recrossing the paths here, which probably means we're going to lose next turn. Definitely not gonna win using Shadowspear here. It seems unlikely that anything we could have done here would make a difference. But I will play the Inkmoth Nexus because I think it gives us the best chance of winning next turn with this Arcbound Ravager. I'm sure it's not going to make a difference as our opponent has stacked their deck, but they could always misclick. Pyromancer Ascension. I'm just gonna make a construct here. And F6, I assume they have some kind of kill here. The thing is, there really aren't many good cards that we could even run against them. Some people play Damping Sphere in the board, which is nice, but you can't tutor for it with Urza's Saga, so it's really just one card for one sideboard slot. Some mono green lists have room for 2 in the board, but our sideboard, because we're playing a Lurrus deck, is a little bit tighter than the mono green version. Now that our opponent has 7 mana in play, I assume they're on their way to finding a Belcher. They recovered a Manamorphose? They recovered a Balaged Recovery, which is strange. Are they building Storm Count? There's the Charbelcher. We're at minus 15 life. Opponent has revealed their whole deck multiple times, but I don't see anything noteworthy in there. Looks like a pretty stock Belcher list. So we're definitely bringing in Pithing Needle to name Belcher, and we're going to keep as many Welding Jars as we have in order to try and protect that Pithing Needle. Nature's Claim can be good. It can target Pyromancer Ascension and also Artifact Mana. But I think we're actually going to want to keep as many threats as we can in our deck to try and kill them as fast as possible. Oh, that was the Pithing Needle. I meant to replace the Shadowspear here. Yeah, I think Pithing Needle plus Welding Jar is the best sideboard plan for us. This hand has 2 Ozoliths and an Ancient Stirrings, which can help us find Pithing Needle or Saga in order to find Pithing Needle, but I think I kind of want to mulligan towards either a Saga or the Needle here. Now this is a very fast hand, actually. This could be a turn 3 kill. So let's see. Turn 1 Scales. Turn 2 Worker Zabaz. Turn 3 Ravager. I think if we keep this and put back the Bauble and just draw into a Walking Ballista or an Ozolith, we do win on turn 3, and hopefully that'll be fast enough to race our Belcher opponent, although Belcher has plenty of potential to win on turn 2. So it could definitely, and of course they could have brought in hate cards of their own. It could definitely not be fast enough. So we didn't draw a third land, so the Ozolith is not an option here. If we do draw a third land, ooh, Force of Vigor. Yep, that's going to be pretty painful. And a Spike Field Hazard. Gross. Well, now they're only on 3 cards in hand and 2 mana, so it's possible that we can actually still kill them before they draw enough gas in order to kill us. If they just go Ritual Belcher here, I'll be sad. Spire of Industry is not going to help here. I think our best bet is going to be to try and kill them with Inkmoth Nexus, but since we only have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 in poison damage for the time being, I think it's not going to affect our clock to take a turn off to put Lurrus in hand here. And if I go next turn Lurrus, Hardened Scales, turn after that, I should be able to kill them. And they are a little bit tight on mana here. So yeah, we're just praying that our opponent bricks for one more turn, and we should be able to kill them next turn. Opponent has Strike It Rich. That does not ramp them, but it does give them green mana. So they have recrossed the paths, but that's not going to be fast enough. If they don't have a way to crack their pile here, if they just have to pass the turn, then I think we're going to win. However, we were on the play this game, and if we were one turn slower, we would have lost. So that's generally how it goes in this matchup. I mean, I guess I want to top the Zabaz here. Crazy that Spike Field Hazard actually exiles. Anyway, it won't be making a difference. Does recross the paths actually... Oh, they won the clash, so they got recrossed back in their hand. Well, as long as they don't have Force of Vigor. Let's see, can I actually play around Force of Vigor? Now that's an interesting question. Opponent is definitely not acting like they have Force of Vigor. Of course, I was supposed to leave up Spire of Industry and actually tap this Brushland so that I could activate Zabaz. But I don't know if that would have made any difference in terms of our damage here, or our ability to play around Force of Vigor. Anyway, they didn't have anything. And yeah, none of these sideboard cards are going to make a difference. So now that we're on the draw, like I said before, we're pretty much entirely reliant on Pithing Needle in order to save us. Although I think this hand is gonna be a turn 4 kill, so we might have to keep it. If we go turn 1 Scales, turn 2 Ballista, we get a 2/2 Ballista. Then turn 3 we can go Llanowar Reborn, Arcbound Ravager, Mishra's Bauble. Reborn gives us a 4/4 Ravager. Bauble gives us a 6/6 Ravager. And then we sack the Ravager to itself, giving us a 8/8 Ballista, which is enough for 16 damage to our opponent's face on turn 3. I think we have to keep this hand. Our opponent could very well deal the remaining 4 damage to themselves with their lands. We did draw a Saga. Now we have an interesting decision here. If we lead on the Saga, then we'll have Pithing Needle in play on turn 3, which might not be fast enough, but it's going to be at least as fast as everything else we have going on. This also opens us up to lose a land due to our opponent's Force of Vigor, but I guess if they have Force of Vigor, there's probably no way for us to win. The question here is, do I want to keep the Bauble in play in case I want to sack it to Ravager? I don't think so. I think because we drew this Saga, we're really just looking for Welding Jar or Pithing Needle. So this turn we can go Branchloft Scales or Branchloft Ballista. I think it's going to be better to play a Ballista here so that we can start attacking. It probably won't make a difference, assuming our opponent doesn't have any interaction, but if they don't have a Belcher here, okay, so we are going to get our Pithing Needle into play. Goblin Charbelcher. And with this Scales, Llanowar Reborn, and Walking Ballista, we should have enough damage to kill our opponent next turn. So Fury. That's an interesting one. They're just going to deal 4 damage to our Ravager. Well, if I was I didn't even know that was a thing they could do. I think I just let this happen, right? It puts 3 counters on my Ballista. It does slow me down by a turn, but I don't want to sack the Needle. In order to save the Ravager, so I And like I said, if they have Force of Vigor, they would have used it already, and nothing that we have can actually beat it. They have another Fury, which is gonna, continue to slow us down, but it's not Force of Vigor, so we actually have a pretty good chance here. I mean, we're gonna have a very large Ballista in play, even after everything our opponent has done. There's a Saga, so would I rather play the Saga here or the Llanowar Reborn? I think I just want to get the... Oh, I actually can't... I can't play the Reborn and the Scale, so I'm just going to go Saga, Scales, make a 3/3 Ballista. Next turn we can play Spire of Industry and make it a 6/6 Ballista and deal 12 damage to our opponent. So our opponent is not dead yet, but very close. It's really not going to make a difference whether I make a Construct or activate Ballista here. Activating Ballista does protect it from our opponent having a 3rd Fury, but other than that... Alright, can they... I mean, they didn't have Force of Vigor, so they probably can't win here. Opponent thinking... I think they overboarded. I mean, like... Fury is okay against us. It did slow us down, but being able to kill us quickly is Belcher's main advantage against us, and it's definitely possible for them to dilute their deck. They did find Force of Vigor, so I guess I was supposed to make a Construct here. We are going to be able to Ballista our opponent down to 3, and this Saga is coming off now. Let's see. Is there anything... I can get off of Saga? If I find a Ballista off of this Stirrings, I obviously just win on the spot. So I think I don't want to be making a Construct here. Maybe I just get Mishra's Bauble to try and have an extra draw, extra look at Ballista. Of course, a Zabaz would just be a lethal attacker, guaranteeing that I win even if I whiff off the Stirrings. If I whiff off the Stirrings, I can just put Lurrus in hand. But I don't have the mana to cast Lurrus right now. I think I'm going to take the Bauble. Okay, we whiffed on the Stirrings. So this is not good. This is not good at all. I guess I was supposed to get a Zabaz there. Wow, if I lose this, I also don't have any white mana. So I have to get the Inkmoth here. I'll play the Inkmoth, put Lurrus in hand. If I draw white mana, I still win. And my top card is Ballista. Okay, we have the win on the top of my deck. In fact, I have it in my hand. Maybe I was supposed to not do that yet in case they play like Thoughtseize out the board, but I don't think they're gonna Thoughtseize me. Alright, opponent. Oh, they could actually reforge the soul. That would be a reason to use the Bauble on their upkeep instead of right now. Instead of on my turn. But anyway, they're not reforging the soul. They are recrossing the paths, I assume. Wow, what a crazy game. I think I definitely misplayed there, but not punished, so So we beat Belcher. That was a surprise. Don't usually expect to win that matchup, but I'll take it. That was, and I think that if we had drawn Esper Sentinel in all of the situations where I had Mishra's Bauble there, it at least wouldn't have been any better, because Sentinel does basically nothing in that matchup. Our opponent plays almost no spells until the moment that they win the game. Belcher, 2-1. This is round 2. We are 1-0 with green-white Hardened Scales featuring Mishra's Bauble. This hand has a Scales and a Saga, and a Jar and a Worker. No idea if this Shadowspear is going to be good here. Opponent reveals no companion, but I think this hand is keepable. It's possible that we could do better on a mulligan. This deck does mulligan very well, because as I said previously, our powerful cards are just so powerful, and our nut draws are pretty nutty. And we have a lot of air. See, that's the thing. It's like you want to draw the good half of the deck. And if you just mulligan down to that good half, like your 5-card hands can be just as good. Your good 5s are as good as your bad 7s. Maybe that's true of a lot of decks. We're not like Tron. We do need a certain number of cards. Anyway, I'm going to start off with Grove and Scales here. And presumably playing Llanowar Reborn next turn. Opponent has Razortide Bridge. We are up against Affinity. This is generally a good matchup for me, although I have lost it before. Let's play Saga, Jar, Shadowspear. The question here is, do I want to play my Worker now or wait for this Llanowar Reborn to come down? I think I'm going to go ahead and just play it. We can, worst case scenario, just equip it with Shadowspear. We can make a Saga token next turn. Generally, our Saga tokens are just a lot worse than our opponent's Saga tokens, since they play so many more artifacts than us. But as long as our opponent doesn't have a Saga, it might not make a difference. So we do have Stirrings here. I could just play a Saga and pay for my opponent's Esper Sentinels. I think that's what I'm going to do here. Because a Walking Ballista or an Arcbound Ravager might just win us the game here. I'm going to attack with the Worker first, so that if our opponent decides to double block, we could just make a Saga token and put the 2 counters on it. They decide to single block, which is honestly ridiculous to me. I don't know why you would throw away an Esper Sentinel like that, but I guess I'll take it. We could play another Worker here. I don't know if Hangarback is gonna do much, although a big Hangarback is not bad with Shadowspear, and Hangarback does grow very quickly. Since we don't have much else going on, I think this is gonna be fine. I guess I didn't have to play the other Saga here. I could have played the Llanowar Reborn once I knew that I was only paying for Sentinel once. And then I would have, or I didn't have to play anything before I saw what I was going to get off of Ancient Stirring. So that was a little misplay there. I think Zabaz is going to be good here off of this Saga. Maybe I want to get Ozolith off the first Saga and Zabaz with the second one. Here's a little trick on MTGO. You can just always tap the Saga that's on 3 for mana, because you know that if you are gonna make a construct, you can always just use the one that's on 2. So you don't have to think about it. Just whenever it's on 3, if you have another Saga, just tap it for mana. So yeah, let's get an Ozolith in play here. Play our Llanowar Reborn and our Hangarback Walker. Ozolith is good if our opponent has Dispatch. Opponent is gonna Metallic Rebuke our Hangarback, or Rebuke. That's a little bit sad. Not happy about that, but I am going to get to make a Construct token next turn and probably Shadowspear it up. And also get a Zabaz, which will allow us to make that Construct token very, very large. So, not too worried here. Opponent has a Nettle Cyst. It's just a 4/4 for now. Which is surprising. Our opponent has they did throw away an Esper Sentinel, and they played a piece of interaction instead of committing to their board. So let's just go ahead and make a construct here. I think if I want to graft onto something, I can always just graft onto the Zabaz and use the counter later. However, making a very big construct token, yeah, this is just fine. I'm gonna graft onto the construct. The only reason I would want to save this counter is if I were to like draw Walking Ballista or Hangarback Walker. There's a bug on my screen. Go away, bug. I think the plan of just make a giant life-linking trampling construct token should be good enough here. We could Zabaz onto our Arcbound Worker in the event that our opponent blocks with their Germ in order to save the Worker. I think I'd rather just keep the Zabaz around as a sack outlet. And it's possible that our opponent doesn't even know that and they would let the Worker go through. Or that they value this Nettle Cyst more than I value my Zabaz. But I think it's not worth the risk. Talisman of Progress. Does Affinity really play this card? Don't they have Springleaf from? Also, they printed that new card that does a Springleaf from impression. Costs 1 blue and it taps for colorless, but the beauty of the new card is that you can tap a Welding Jar or something in order to add mana with it. Opponent has Relic of Progenitus in the main deck. Yeah, I think our opponent's build is a little bit off. Just exile a Saga here. Anyway, we're gonna really start beating down these things. Get very big very fast when you have the Ozolith and Hardened Scales in play. Guess I might as well just give Zabaz flying to get in for an extra 2 damage. I guess I might have wanted to save red mana to have the option of activating Zabaz twice there. Doesn't seem like that would come up. And I mean, having Welding Jar here just makes me feel so safe. Opponent does decide to block with their Germ. They can, of course, re-equip the Nettle Cyst, so that makes sense. But they're down to 11, and we have a 15/15 in play. In fact, if all they do is equip Nettle Cyst this turn, we could just blow up our Construct token, putting 9 counters on the Ozolith, which will put 10 counters back on Zabaz, giving us a lethal flying attacker. Opponent has Portable Hole, presumably for the Construct, although maybe they're going to go for the Zabaz or the Shadowspear even. Anyway, just one portable hole is not going to do it here. They do go for the Construct token, saving us the effort of blowing it up ourselves. But they're going to need another piece of interaction or a flying blocker. A very large flying blocker at that. I guess Ornithopter plus Equipped Nettlecyst would keep them alive. And obviously Dispatch or another portable hole or some such. Opponent equips Nettlecyst to Ingenious Smith. That is very good for us. They do decide to attack, smartly noting that their creature's not going to be useful as blockers. But I'd be interested to see what their plan is here. Cycles Relic. I don't think there are any 0 mana ways for the Affinity deck to remove our stuff from the board. I don't think they play main deck Force of Vigor. Hardened Scales, I'll take it. I guess I should pay for that, huh? Is this BM? Am I slow rolling? Probably. Anyway, 14-14 trample. Opponent concedes. All right. Bringing in the paths, the Prismatics, and the Nature's Claim. I don't know if we actually want Path to Exile here. Our opponent can make very large creatures. Do they even have stuff to do with their extra basic land? Mana sinks. Animation module can also be good. It does allow us to create an endless stream of chump blockers, and I think we can probably sack the or bin the Welding Jars here, since a lot of our opponent's removal, like Dispatch and Portable Hole, is going to be Exile based. So yeah, let's start by taking out Welding Jars for the Prismatic Endings, and maybe a couple of Ancient Stirrings for the Nature's Claims, since we are boarding in a lot of non-colorless cards here. I don't know, maybe I want to keep the Ancient Stirrings. Maybe 1 Ancient Stirrings, 2 Bauble. We could also board out an Arcbound Worker for the 4th Ancient Stirrings. Yeah, I kind of like that. Ancient Stirrings is just so good in this deck. Alright, we got Scales, we got Nature's Claim, we got Saga, we got Ravager. This is honestly the perfect hand. Or at least one of our perfect, one of our best keeps. It's got everything we want to see. Opponent's top card is Metallic Rebuke. Hey, that's powerful information right there. I can play around Metallic Rebuke. Mishra's Bauble pulling its weight. It's not just a cantrip. You know what? That was basically Gitaxian Probe. I learned things with that Bauble. Opponent decided to keep Relic in. I don't know if Relic is actually, you know, good against us. Anyway, this might be our last turn to not get Metallic Rebuked. I think I'm going to want to play this Hangarback Walker here, although there's something to be said for, I don't even have white mana for this Prismatic Ending. Let's just go Saga Hangarback. I did cut the Springleaf Drum although I wasn't playing a Springleaf Drum in the last video. A lot of lists play a Springleaf Drum, which allows you to make any color off of your Urza Saga when it dies. And we have been a little short on white mana for Lurrus or Prismatic recently. This deck has 10 white sources and 7 red sources, so it is pretty tight. Opponent has the Dispatch for the Hangarback. That's pretty good for them. I think I'm going to Nature's Claim this Urza Saga here. Why do I have a stop on my draw step? So let's go Stirrings and then maybe Worker. Really just trying to get our opponent to use this Metallic Rebuke. And they do. Okay. Let's not pay for that. Let's play this. Kill that. And now our opponent has 2 cards in hand and nothing else of note at all. So I think we're winning. Aether Spellbomb, powerful stuff. Do I want to make a construct here? I think I do. I think a construct is going to be just as powerful as the rest of the stuff in our hand. And we do have Ravager and Zabaz in hand, so I think Ozolith is going to be pretty powerful here. If I draw a land, then I think I have enough counters for lethal next turn. I haven't counted, but I don't know. You do the math. You're watching the video. Nettle Cyst, okay. Not a bad card in this situation. Oh, and Aether Spellbomb is actually does allow them to stop us from going all in on whatever we play. I think I'm going to play this Walking Ballista. It can ping down random dudes they might play off the top of their deck. And it can allow us to kill them even without attacking. Smith is another good one. If they're going to be able to draw out of this, Ingenious Smith is how they're going to do it. Opponent reveals nothing. Okay, maybe they're not going to draw. Wait, did they reveal Mishra's Bauble? They have to look at the top 4, may reveal an artifact, right? Yeah, so I guess they didn't hit anything off of that Smith. And I can ping it whenever I want with this Ballista. Be nice to draw a land here. Another Zabaz is not bad. I think I'm just going to play both Zabazes and force them to Spellbomb the Ballista here. I mean, is this forcing? I don't know. It's pretty darn close, right? Let's see. So, yeah, I mean, whatever they do here, I can ping the Germ to death with the Ballista. I guess if they bounce the Ballista before blocking, then that gives me a little bit more to consider. But they didn't, so yeah. Now they're basically dead. or at least very close to dead. Thoughtcast, okay. Thought Monitor. It's not nothing. At this point, if they tap their Springleaf Drum... Oh, sorry, I smacked my microphone there. If they tap their Springleaf Drum, they're just dead, right? They don't necessarily know that I have Arcbound Ravager in hand, but I can wipe their board and not be afraid of Spellbomb using this Ballista, and then just make a million counters with Ravager here. They're gonna portable hole my Ballista, so I'm just gonna ping down all their creatures, put them down to like 7 life or whatever. I was about to say 4. I'm gonna deal 4 to them, putting them to 7, and then they're gonna have no mana. Actually, I should probably just let the portable hole happen in order to get the counters on Ozolith. I guess it makes almost literally no difference, but... So let's see, this is going to be 4, this is going to be 5, 9 damage on board. All right, that's 2-0 against Affinity. I will see you guys for round 3. Welcome to round number 3. We are 2-0 with green-white Hardened Scales featuring Mishra's Bauble, beating Belcher and Affinity. This is a marginal hand. We've got 2 Scales, Ballista, and Llanowar Reborn. So we could go turn 1, Reborn, turn 2, Scales, Scales, turn 3, Ballista with 3/6 counters on it. That's enough to beat a lot of decks. Very bad against decks with a single removal spell. I think I'm going to keep this. Making a big Walking Ballista will be great against creature decks, and having 2 Hardened Scales in play will be great against control decks. Combo decks, like Titan on the other hand, we really can't beat no matter what. We got pretty lucky round 1 against Belcher. If we are up against Titan, our only route to victory is going to be to win as fast as possible. I think this hand has the potential for a turn 4 kill, but I don't think there's any chance of a turn 3 here. If our opponent is playing Titan Shift, looks like they're playing Amulet Titan. So they really just have to have a slow hand in order for us to have any kind of a chance. I think I'm just going to play both copies of Hardened Scales and set up for a turn 4 kill. And our opponent just has to not be able to race that. I think I will choose not to graft onto my opponent's Azusa. I mean, they could play a bunch of lands here, but as long as they don't have an amulet, we're probably fine. Excuse me. Now up to 6 mana. Opponent could end up playing a Titan here, but it's probably going to be too late for them. think I want to kill their Azusa here. Let's see, if I spend 2 counters here, then I'll have a 3/3 worker and a 4/4 ballista. I could, assuming I draw nothing, I could spend 3 counters from ballista to kill my own worker, putting 5 counters on ballista, which means I'd have a 6/6 ballista, which would be enough for 12 damage to my opponent's face. If I don't kill the Azusa, they have a blocker, so it's gonna be bad either way. Guess I have to kill the Azusa. But I do have the Shadowspear. So 6/6 ballista plus Shadowspear. I mean, that's still... That's the same 6/6 ballista I had in the other situation. So killing the Azusa is definitely right there. Looks like our opponent does have a Titan. Ooh, maybe they have Colossus, the thing that makes 1,000,000 lands and draws you 1,000,000 cards. Honestly, I think I can beat a Colossus if they don't have an amulet. They do have a Titan. Sometimes Amulet Titan just doesn't have Amulet, you know? Opponent thinking about how they're going to get themselves out of this. I could put 3 counters on my ballista next turn and then kill their Titan, which seems like a reasonable proposition if I don't draw Arcbound Ravager or some way to win the game. Does Ozolith win me the game here? It totally does, right? Because I get 5 counters from the modular trigger and 5 counters from the Ozolith, which would be a 10/10 or an 11/11 Inkmoth Nexus. So yeah, Ozolith off the top wins the game. Ravager off the top wins the game. Zabaz? Yeah, wait. So Zabaz, I can activate targeting the worker and then ballista the Zabaz. So Zabaz off the top wins the game. I like my odds. I can Stirrings into those things. Let's see, 50 cards in deck. I've got 4 Stirrings, 8 Zabaz, 12 Ravager, 13, 14 Ozolith, 14 hits, possibly some other things that I'm not thinking of. And if I don't draw any of those, then I'll just kill my opponent's Titan and they have to have another Titan. Walking Ballista. Did I think about Walking Ballista as an option here? So I can play a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4/4 Ballista here. If I kill the worker, that puts 5 counters on this Ballista, which gives me a 9/9 Ballista, which is still not quite lethal if my opponent doesn't block. So I can't force them to block here. I think it's probably smarter just to kill their prime time and attack for 4 damage. Let's see. Activating Ballista puts 3 counters on it, whereas casting Ballista gives me a 4/4 Ballista. So it's slightly more efficient to cast the Ballista. I guess it kind of doesn't make a difference. But it'll keep this Ballista as large as possible for threatening to kill them next turn. And I think I'd rather keep my worker in play to have more routes to kill with Inkmoth next turn. Is Shadowspear even doing anything for me here? I don't think so. I think I'm just gonna play a 4/4 Ballista, ping my opponent's Titan 6 times, and get in for 5 here. Now that they're down to 16, if I make a 5/5 Ballista next turn, they are still not dead, which is sad. Last turn they got a Gruul Turf but did not bounce their Talaria West, and they don't even have the mana to transmute Talaria West, so I don't know why they got Talaria West in the first place. My opponent might be on a my opponent might be not very experienced with their deck. Escape to the Wilds. What? Top 5 cards. You may play them, and you may play an additional land. Never seen that in Titan before. They did hit 2 Titans and a Summoner's Pact. So if they have enough lands here, they could definitely kill me. But if they don't have any lands in hand, let's see, 1 Handwear Battlements. So 1, 2, 3. They don't have enough green mana yet. Oh, they do have enough green mana. Okay, they're gonna get another Titan, a Titan of their own here. Second Titan. But still no amulet, so probably still not killing me here. I can no longer make a big enough Ballista in order to kill my opponent's Titan. And now that my Ballista is a 2/2, Ozolith off the top does not kill my opponent. They decide to get 2 Urza's Sagas, which is going to allow them to oh, and now they have Arboreal Grazer to block my Inkmoth Nexus. So I'm going to have to Shadowspear the Inkmoth Nexus. There's a Zabaz. So I can blow up my Arcbound Worker in order to kill their Titan. And then next turn I can blow up my Zabaz in order to hopefully kill them. Am I just dead if I let them attack with Titan? I don't think so. Is this end of your next turn? Oh my god, they can play so many Titans. They can Summoner's Pact for that dude and then play Titan and get like a bunch of Valakuts and stuff. And they have this thing to block. Man, if only I hadn't killed their Titan. Then I don't know. I probably still wouldn't have the kill here. So let's see. I can play Shadowspear, equip Shadowspear, and activate Zabaz. That's going to put 5 counters on this Ballista, making it a 8/8, which is exactly lethal if they don't block it. But obviously they can just block it with the Arboreal Grazer. I guess it's better than nothing. The alternative is activate Zabaz twice, make a 12/12 Ballista, which can kill their Titan and their Arboreal Grazer and deal 6 to them. I'm going to go with the Shadowspear line. I think I'd rather lose a life than my opponent gain a life. See what opponent decides to do here. They can't really block either of my dudes because I can make them big enough to kill their Titan. Okay, they do decide to let the Titan go, which is sad for me. I can't beat whatever that Eidolon is plus Titan off the top of their deck. But I have to try, right? Wow, 1 mana short. Wait, if I hadn't equipped the Shadowspear, then they just block with the Arboreal Grazer. I don't know why they even kept the Arboreal Grazer around. Okay, they play Titan. Don't they have the Eidolon that turns all... Okay, they're playing Summoner's Pact here. Yeah, because like Eidolon or Dryad of the Elysian Grove. That's what it's called. It's not an Eidolon. So if they play Dryad here and then play Titan and then give Titan haste and just get 4 Valakuts, there's nothing I can do. So like, seems pretty clear to me. My opponent's just figuring it out for themselves, you know? I bought this deck in paper, by the way. I don't have Mishra's Baubles, but I bought the Esper Sentinel version. Now I can play in real life. It's a fun deck. I like this deck. I even went 3-0 with it at FNM. Come on, opponent. Am I gonna have to edit this? I could edit this video. Sounds like a lot of work. Edit out all of the long lulls to keep it action packed. Keep the video exciting. Maybe I will. It's easier than being entertaining for however long this video is gonna end up being. Opponent has another Summoner's Pact. Don't they already have a Titan? What else could they want? Another Dryad? Oh, because of the size of my Ballista. Right, I can just kill the Dryads. In fact, I can still kill the Dryads, right? In response to the Titan trigger. At which point I will no longer have a way to kill them. But I can at least make a fairly large Inkmoth Nexus. With trample, of course. And my opponent has to pay for 2 pacts next turn, so that's not nothing. Hanware Battlements. Target creature gains haste. Maybe they should have played that. Did they have the land drops for that? Hanware Battlements? Crazy how long this game has gone on without my opponent having an amulet. They're gonna get an amulet next turn. So I have to draw Ozolith here. Even if I do draw Ozolith, I have Ozolith plus activate Inkmoth plus equip Shadowspear. So yeah, if I draw, oh wait, but then I can't activate Zabaz. So Ozolith doesn't even win the game here. It's gotta be Arcbound Ravager. Go Ravager plus activate Inkmoth, and then I still can't equip Shadowspear. But I can make a big Walking Ballista. What a game. I mean, I can still make a big Walking Ballista. I can still make Ballista big enough to kill my opponent's Titan. We've already seen 2 Titans out of them and 2 Summoners Pacts. And they've got to pay for their packs next turn, so maybe just killing their Titan is going to be good enough to kill them, even though they're getting 2 amulets next turn. Or not kill them, but, you know, slow them down. Ballista's a good card. Ballista is a good card. Okay, so Zabaz off the top, I think does give me a big enough Ballista to just kill them, right? I play a 3/3 Zabaz, it puts 5 counters on Zabaz, gives me an 8/8 Zabaz, which puts 10 counters on Ballista, gives me a 10/10 Ballista with Shadowspear, which then gets in for exactly 2 damage and then pings them 10 times. That's exactsies if I draw Zabaz off the top. Or Arcbound Worker. Ancient Stirrings, Ozolith, Ballista, Bauble. Okay, so say I get Ozolith here. Play my Ozolith, kill my Zabaz, gives me a 10/10 Ballista. And then I do what I just described, right? Opponent has to block. They prevent 9 of the 11 damage. They go to 10, and then I have 10 counters on my Ballista, and I win the game. Okay. Wow, what a close game. That was honestly kind of ridiculous. I definitely don't want to activate Grove of the Burnwillows here. Hey, remember that time I said I think I would rather pay a life than let my opponent gain a life? This is why. It's because I have exactly lethal. If I had tapped my Grove of the Burnwillows one more time this game, I would have lost. I gotta remember to ping them to death on upkeep, not at the end of my turn, because this Ballista is 5 activations away from killing itself. Opponent is gonna pay for their packs, and then I'm gonna kill them. Wow, what a game. I mean, it feels good to beat Titan, even though that's not something I expect to do very often. I think I want to bring in the Claims and the Prismatics. They can kill Grazers and Amulets, obviously, but Nature's Claim can also kill Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Welding Jar is kind of useless in this matchup. My opponent almost never is actually going to be dealing with my stuff. They're just going to be following their own game plan. We did see Shadowspear win us that last game, but I think it's not going to be good here. And we also want Torpor Orbs, because those turn off Titans at least the turn the Titan comes down. They generally are good enough to slow the opponent down for at least 1 turn. And then after that, I probably just want to cut like 2 Baubles, 1 Stirrings, or maybe 1 Bauble, 1 Stirrings, 1 Arcbound Ravager, or Arcbound Worker, excuse me. If we cut too many Baubles, then these 23 lands are going to start looking bad, but actually Stirrings is always going to be better than Bauble. I think you never cut a Bauble before you cut, or you never cut a Stirrings before Bauble. Yep, this seems good. Alright, opponent is going to get to be on the play here. This is not a good hand. We don't have any of the cards that really make this deck tick, and we also don't have any of our sideboard cards. This is going to be a good hand. It does have the cards that make our deck tick, and it has a sideboard card. So I'm thinking I just want to keep 2 lands and a Stirring, 2 lands and 2 Stirrings, or 3 lands and 1 Stirrings. Let's go with 3 lands and 1 Stirrings here. Hopefully, I don't know. Our deck is pretty land light compared to, well, just in general, honestly. It's pretty. It's very. It's got a lot of mana sinks. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. Let's open up with the stirrings here. Hangarback, Inkmoth, Bauble. Nothing interesting. I think I probably want to keep the Inkmoth here. Inkmoth plus Saga, or Inkmoth plus getting Ozolith off of our Saga, plus these two Zabazes will be lethal if our opponent doesn't have a Dryad, but we can kill Dryad with this Prismatic Ending. Not Dryad, you know, the Grazer, Arboreal Grazer, a monkey. Is Arboreal Grazer a sloth? I think it is. I'll let you know if I see one. It's a beast. It's kind of sloth-like, right? I mean, it has 0 power. So we have to get this Saga down here. I think we just want to play one Zabaz. Anyway, this is not looking good, chat. I'm just kidding. There is no chat. This is not a stream. It's not looking good. But we've got another shot next game. And you know, maybe our opponent will mess up. Maybe our opponent has no lands in hand. How many lands does the Titan deck play? Like 40? Okay, they have 5 mana. No more land drops this turn. Force of Vigor? Oh no! They played Interaction. Chat, that's illegal. Okay, I mean, this is bad, but at least they haven't played a Titan yet, right? We even have Lurrus. Oh, I forgot to Prismatic my opponent's amulet. That was silly. I'm silly. Sorry, guys. Well, they have another amulet, so I guess it wasn't gonna end up mattering, huh? If they play a Titan here, I'll be mad. I'll be sad that our Outland Liberator. Maybe it was smart of me not to kill my opponent's amulet so that I can kill their Outland Liberator. I mean, if that thing flips, there's like nothing I can do. However, if I try and kill it, then they can just kill my Zabaz in response. I think the call here is just to put Lurrus in hand. I think our opponent has to break a lot for us to win this game. But they do still only have 4 lands in play, so maybe they're saving a bounce land in hand, trying to draw their what's this thing's CMC? Is it 2? Frenzied Trapbreaker mana value. Drew another land. Wow, really wishing I had kept just 2 lands. Double face permanence. MTG, NDFC, mana value. All right, Mana value MTG Wiki. Rules. Huntmaster of the Fells is a transforming double face card. The mana value is 4. After it transforms, the mana value remains 4. Okay. Do I want to kill their Dryad here? Or their Trapbreaker? Do I want to play Lurrus? Can I, like, accomplish anything with Trapbreaker in play? I can, you know, with Lurrus in play, I can start putting counters on my Inkmoth using Zabaz's. It's not nothing. All right, here's the plan. We're gonna... Oh, that doesn't work. Activate Inkmoth. Oh, I was supposed to attack with the Inkmoth, wasn't I? That's okay. Add white. Add green. Exile the Trapbreaker. Pass turn. Next turn, Lurrus plays Zabaz. Turn after that, start attacking with Inkmoth again. Keep playing Zabaz's. Opponent just has to not draw a Titan for 4 or 5 turns. Or anything else. Opponent has to not draw any cards for 5 turns. Opponent's thinking, like, do I want to Force of Vigor a single Inkmoth Nexus? Opponent must be on a strange build of Amulet Titan. They've been, like, far more dirtily than I expect Amulet Titan to be. Opponent attacks for 2 with Dryad. Powerful stuff. Wow, that Dryad is naked. Look at him. 3rd Amulet. Powerful stuff. 1 bounce land now generates untold quantities of mana. I mean, so if I want to play Zabaz from the graveyard here, yeah, I think I'd rather get the Ballista down and just start attacking. Next turn I can go Lurrus, Zabaz, put a counter on Ballista. Ooh, Torpor Orb. I like that. So let's go Lurrus, Zabaz, Torpor Orb. And now we're not even afraid of Titan. Well, we're a little bit afraid of Titan, but Lurrus wins games. Observe Lurrus winning this game. I mean, I don't know how my opponent has not won the game by now, but when your opponent does literally nothing for many turns in a row and you're ridiculously mana flooded, that is the moment. The moment when Lurrus wins you the game. So let's go ahead and just Zabaz, put 2 counters on Ballista. And then play a large Ballista. And then attack. I think I want to hold back this Zabaz just because it, you know, Makes my Lurrus bigger. Opponent does block, obviously. Don't know why they wouldn't. Now I have to kill their Dryad with my Ballistas like an idiot. I don't know why I did that. But I guess it's I guess the right call was just to not attack with the Lurrus, and it would have not made a difference. I honestly don't know what could be in my opponent's hand. Like, have they not drawn a land for 5 turns, or have they not drawn a Titan for 5 turns? Have they just been stockpiling Force of Vigors for one big blowout? I thought their deck was just lands and Titans. I mean, I knew they drew a bunch of Urza Sagas, but we won. We 2-0'd Amulet Titan. Because they just never attempted to kill us. I have been doing pretty well against Amulet Titan recently, but it's still definitely a bad matchup. Okay, on to round 4. Looks like we lost the die roll. This is round 4. Round 4. We are 3-0. Pretty good start. Opponent reveals no companion. And we have Zabaz, Ballista, Shadowspear, and 4 lands. I think we can do better than that. Well, this is not better than that. It does have a Hangarback Walker, so we could this hand could snowball, but I think there are just better things in our deck, and we should go looking for them. Urza Saga is one of them. We are keeping 5, but Saga can definitely recoup some card advantage here. So probably just gonna put back Jar and a land. Question is, which land? Maybe I just put back Bauble and a land, or Bauble and Jar. No, I don't need all of these lands. Okay, 2 lands. Let's keep Grove, Saga, Inkmoth. And then put back the Jar. Opponent reveals Chancellor of the Tangle. Oh, man, another combo matchup? Okay, Neoform has got to be an actually unwinnable matchup, right? Like, of all of the combo matchups they're all unfavorable matchups for us, but at least with Neoform, it's just luck of the draw. It's on their deck to execute the game plan, and they do fizzle sometimes. This is one of the matchups in which Grafdigger's Cage is legitimately great. Anyway, let's let them do their thing, and hopefully we can get them with some sideboard cards. But we can Pithing Needle their Grizzlebrand. We can Grafdigger's Cage them. Anyway, we really do have to hope that they just don't have anything in the next 2 games. What? Thrasta? They actually cast Thrasta? I mean, I get that. They made a 33/33 Thrasta with Fortifying Drought. Okay, that's one way to win the game, I guess. I assumed they were going to do some Thassa's Oracle BS, but okay, let's bring in Path to Exiles, Grafdigger's Cage, and Pithing Needle, and I think that's all we get for this matchup. Welding Jar, I assume they board in. Let me look up a Neoform list just for reference.
don't even know. Guess I have to search for it? Or is it classified under Instant Reanimator in MTG Top 8? Let me try MTG Goldfish. MTG Goldfish Neoform. Anyway, I guess this list is under the radar enough that there's no consensus. So definitely not going to need Shadowspear here. Probably not Arcbound Worker. Maybe cut one or two of those. Probably just going to cut like 2 Baubles and a Worker. I would like to play first. We have Needle. I guess my opponent has to have Force of Vigor in addition to their other BS. They did not reveal Chancellor of the Tangle, so I don't think there's any way they can cast Neoform this turn. So I'm going to start off with Hardened Scales. I mean, I know that's a bit of a risk, but if I can draw Welding Jar before playing my Pithing Needle, it'll probably be worth it. Opponent plays Abundant Harvest, looking for non-land Nourishing Shoal. And I'm just gonna Pithing Needle name Grizzlebrand. And I guess play Worker? Probably Zabaz. Generally, you want to play Zabaz instead of... Ooh, an opponent goes straight to discard. I think that's got to be a misclick, right? Oh, and they concede. Okay. Okay. Yeah, my opponent misclicked, and then they shame conceded. None of these cards are going to be good. It's possible that this Worker is going to be better than this Bauble, or that this Bauble is going to be better than this Worker. Bauble can draw us into our hate cards, but Worker helps us kill our opponent faster. Question is, can we win at all if we don't have a hate card and keep it alive? The thing about Mishra's Bauble is it doesn't help us draw into our hate cards on the first turn of the game, which is the only important turn against the Neobrand deck. So I'm just going to resubmit. I'm going to go with my gut. The 2 Bauble, 2 Worker build. I think I'm going to mulligan all the way to a hate card here. Like, this is a fine hand, but it doesn't slow our opponent down at all, so. This is a bad hand. I would mulligan this no matter what. Opponent kept 6. Now, this is a 5-card hand that does kill our opponent, but it doesn't kill them very quickly. We can play an Urza Saga and get a hate piece down on the 3rd turn of the game. The alternative is going to 4, which, with our opponent on 6 cards, I assume they have a way to deal with Pithing Needle. I'm going to go to 4. I think, okay, I'll keep this. At least it has a Hardened Scales, right? So we're going to keep Saga, Scales, Land, Zabaz, or Saga, Zabaz, Land, Ballista. Maybe we just want Saga, Inkmoth. Okay, Saga, Zabaz, Spire, Ballista. Maybe Ballista's actually... If we keep Ballista and Scales, can we kill their thing before they sacrifice it? No, generally not. We're going to want to play Saga on turn 1, so I think Saga into Zabaz is going to be better than Saga into... Or Saga and then play Scales on turn 2. I'm gonna keep Scales over Ballista. Scales is the best card to speed up our deck most of the time. It is the namesake of the deck. So let's put back the Ballista, the land, and the other land. Alright, opponent, all you gotta do is kill by turn 3. Or have a single piece of artifact destruction. Or enchantment destruction. Can you do that, Neoform? Don't know why you would keep a hand if it couldn't do that, but... Sorry for the interruption. My opponent natural stated my Urza Saga on the end of my turn, and now they are playing Summoner's Pact, so I assume I am dead here. With their very last card, Eldritch Evolution for Grizzlebrand. Now, with 0 cards in hand, they have to execute their combo. They did find a Nourishing Shoal, which is nice for them. And with the ability to draw 14 more cards here if they want, I assume we have lost. This is interesting. Thrasta in Neobrand. It's a 12 CMC creature, so it doesn't gain them quite as much life as that big worm with 15 CMC. But it is a win con. If our opponent can't kill us here and we draw a 0-drop, then we do kill them. Oh, and they concede. Okay. G.R. Donkin, if you're listening. I wasn't going to kill you next turn. You can just attack with Grizzlebrand and win the game. Did they play a lot of pacts? Oh, they already Summoner's Pacted. Okay, opponent fizzled and lost to their own Summoner's Pact. Amazing. Neobrand has a fail rate. That was 2-1 against Neobrand. All right, we're 4-0. Let's go for the 5-0 here. This time of night on the West Coast, I think you don't play against the same, quite the same tier of player on average as you do during the middle of the day, since it's pretty late at night where I am and most of the world has gone to sleep at this point. The player base is much more limited. So I do think playing at this time of night gives you a bit of an advantage, just against the field. You know, at 4-0, you're more likely to play against someone who might be just 2-0 than you would be at a time of day when more people are online. Alrighty, here's round 5. Looks like we are on the play, and we have a great hand. Alright, good luck, Gourd Master. Do I want to open up with Saga here? We've got enough other stuff going on that we might just want our Ozolith in play ASAP. However, with only 2 lands and no Springleaf Drum in the deck, it's kind of risky to only have this Saga count as a land for 3 turns. Opponent has a Forest on top. I could have looked at my own top card before deciding whether I wanted to Saga on turn 1, but it's looking like we did not want a Saga on turn 1 since our opponent had Forest, Mountain, and Lightning Bolt, which I assume means we're up against some kind of land destruction or otherwise grindy green-red deck. Farseek. Maybe we're actually up against Scapeshift. Cinderglade? Yeah, this has got to be Titan Shift or some other Scapeshift deck. I think I'm happy to just play a Walking Ballista here and activate Hangarback Walker. Maybe I should activate during main phase. Next turn, if I get Ozolith and then I play Worker and Ravager, I think I just have the kill. Actually, I know I just have the kill if my opponent doesn't have anything else they can do. Do I have the kill through a Dryad? That I don't know for sure. And another Farseek. So my opponent is tapped out. They have a lot of mana in play, but I think I just have enough to kill them here. Welding Jar is great. As a way to just get one more counter in play. So, is it better to Worker Modular on the Ravager or on the Hangarback? It does get us 2 counters, or I think it's better to put it on the Hangarback because that gets us an extra counter on the Ozolith from the larger Hangarback, and it gets us an extra counter on the Ravager from the Thopter token, which in turn becomes 2 counters once you count the modular. So I'm thinking you get 1 extra counter by modularing first onto the Hangarback. Anyway, our opponent's at 18, so we need to deal 22 damage to kill the Dryad and the opponent. Which means we need a 9-13 power ballista, which will be absolutely no problem with this Ravager plus the Ozolith. Because currently we're at 5, so actually just one more Thopter token should make this a lethal Walking Ballista, and I guess I'll sacrifice one extra Thopter for good measure. That's why I like to play my Walking Ballistas on turn 3, because Walking Ballista effectively has double strike when you're making it very large and putting Ozolith counters on it. That was game 1. Alright, game 2 against what I assume is red-green Titan Shift. Kind of an outdated deck, or at least not very popular at the moment. I assume Torpor Orb is going to be good here, although honestly, Titan Shift does like to attack with their Titans. Definitely pad the Exile. I'm going to keep the Welding Jars in because I assume they have Force of Vigor or some kind of artifact hate in their board. Other than that, none of these cards really do anything. I've honestly been wondering if Alpine Moon is an option. We could probably, especially in like a red-green build of this deck, Alpine Moon would be a pretty useful sideboard card for naming Valakut and the like. Since none of our sideboard cards are looking like they're going to be that useful, I guess Nature's Claim does kill Dryad, but I don't think my opponent has any other artifacts or enchantments. I guess if I see any artifacts or enchantments, I can board in some of these cards, but as it is, I'm just going to try and have my deck be as aggressive as possible. I think I'm going to board out one Shadowspear and one Bauble or Worker. Something like that. Okay, this hand does have a path. We can make white mana with this Branchloft Pathway, and I think Urza Saga is going to be good here if our opponent doesn't play Alpine Moon or Blood Moon. Is Titan Shift allowed to play Blood Moon? No, they're not, because that would turn off their Valakuts. Silly. Let's go Grove Stirrings here. None of these cards are very exciting. Inkmoth could potentially allow for some faster kills in the future since we have this Ballista. But Ballista is going to help us grind a little better, so I think I'm just going to take a spare Ballista here. Opponent, no second land. That's very good for us. Definitely just going to play Jar Hangarback here. Opponent looks like they're considering something. Maybe a Force of Vigor in response to the trigger. I don't know. Maybe they don't have anything. Lightning Bolt? Sure. Do I want a Jar here? Yeah, I'm going to Jar here. It's almost always correct to just trade your Jar for their Bolt. Having the Hangarback stick around is going to allow us to put more counters on it. Although I'm thinking next turn I might just want to activate Saga, since an XX construct is probably going to be worth more than a counter on the Hangarback in the long run. Anyway, Titan Shift with a 1-land hand maybe they didn't just have a 1-land hand. We did draw Ravager, which means I'm definitely going to play the Ballista this turn, and hopefully I'll be able to kill them next turn with the Ozolith in play. If they do play or have a way to play Titan this turn, I can path it. And if not, I can put a counter on this Hangarback. It kind of feels to me like the Titan Shift deck of yore is just not fast enough for this deck. So opponent is at 19. I'm going to try and do the math here. I guess a counter on Hangarback is always going to be more useful than pathing their Sakura Tri-Belter, because I can just use a counter from the Ballista to deal with the Sakura Tri-Belter. So no math to be done. Activate Hangarback and just go for the kill. Hardened Scales is easily going to secure us the kill here if our opponent doesn't have Force of Vigor. And ideally, we'll just be able to hold up this path in the event that they do play Force of Vigor. So how big do I need this Walking Ballista to be? It needs to be an 11-11. To make it an 11-11, I need 5 counters on this Ravager. Or, since I'm sacrificing Hangarback here, I only need 4 counters on the Ravager, which I currently have. Is it going to make any difference if I sack an extra Thopter token? Probably not. Opponent concedes. Hey, that's a 5-0. Like I said, not the most competitive opponents. Neo-brand opponent conceded prematurely. But you can probably blame that on the time of night here on the West Coast. And thanks for watching. I guess I'll just go back to the deck list here. This deck is probably going to show up in the 5-0 lists, since it's pretty similar to a lot of Lurrus builds. I don't know, maybe it won't. But I liked Bauble. I liked Bauble in all those games. I think Sentinel is really powerful when it works, but Bauble is never a dead card. It always just cycles. So yeah, I'd say it warrants more testing. I don't think Esper Sentinel is the final word in green-white Lurrus builds of Hardened Scales. Although I'm not saying that I definitely think Bauble is correct here, because as I mentioned a few times before, like Shadowspear, Arcbound Worker, let's see, these cards are good cards. All the rest of the deck, all of these 11 cards, you could just play nothing. You could just play dead cards and you would still win tons of games with just the sheer power level of the core of the deck. So I like Bauble, but this deck it takes a lot of testing to be able to figure out what the correct split is going to be for these 11 cards in the long run, and it is going to be meta dependent. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. That was really fun. Always good to get another trophy in my pocket, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Thank you.